You think of dead lakes overflowing with corpses, of police stations where the rich lock up the poor, of palaces where those who follow orders torture those who refuse to. You think of distraught lovers, abandoned friends, and absent parents, of lapsed treaties and photographs that are seen and forgotten, regardless of the walls they hang on. How the world will go on without you and forget you are even here. You think of the mother, the old man, and the dog, of the things you did or failed to do for the ones you loved. You think about evil causes and about worthy ones. The chances of violence ending violence are one in nothing, one in nada, one in squat. On reflection, once you have seen your own face and recognized the color of your eyes, tasted the air and smelled the soil, drunk from the purest fountain and the dirtiest wells, this is the kindest thing you can say about life. It's not nothing. What up, fantasy fans? I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay, where I talk about books, comics, and manga. Today I'm going to be telling you why you should be reading The Seven Moons of Maali Almeida by Shihan Karun Tilaka. So today I'm going to be telling you why I enjoyed this book and why I think a lot of you will as well. So what is the story actually about? We follow Maali Almeida, who's a war photographer. He also, by his own words, is a whore, but he is not a homosexual. He is simply a man that is fond of the company of other beautiful men. But that is kind of just his own perception of himself because of this society he lives in where it's, frowned upon to be gay. But he's a war photographer in Sri Lanka during this Sri Lankan civil war. So we pick up the story after Molly has died, and he has no memories of his death. He doesn't know how or why he has died, and he has 7 moons before he has to go to the light. Now, what he does with those 7 moons is up to him. Does he try to figure out what his murder was, or who his murderer was, and why? You have to read and find out. Now, what I enjoyed about this book is we have a character who has lived his entire life being extremely selfish, and he has to live this, he has to experience his death, and he has to see the people he's left behind. And that brings us to our other two main characters, Dee Dee and Jackie. Now, of our three main characters, Molly, Dee Dee, and Jackie, I personally thought Jackie was the best character. She was like the only one that didn't piss me off at times, but I also really enjoy Molly as a character. Dee Dee, I think, is not going to be a lot of people's favorites, but I mean, he does have good and negative qualities. And it's really captivating seeing this character of Molly, who's lived his entire life living only for Molly Almeida. He's not faithful to his partners. He's not always a good friend. He's a terrible boyfriend. Uh, but in death, in seeing who he left behind, and seeing Jackie, and seeing Dee Dee, he does want more for them. He's able to look at it, take himself out of the equation, and look at these people who loved him, and he's able to love them back in the way that they deserved while he was still alive. Now, some negatives of this book, doesn't have a very linear structure, but I'm kind of hard pressed to find negatives. I think this is a damn near perfect book. And another thing I love about this book is it is highly quotable. In fact, so many lines in this book, I just wanted to highlight them or write them down, and they're so quotable. One quote from this book that I thought made me stop in my tracks because I was listening to it on audiobook. The audiobook is amazing, by the way. But we're gonna be light spoilers. But uh, Molly's girlfriend's uncle, yeah, keep it as low spoiler as possible. Molly's girlfriend's uncle asks him, "What do you do for work?" And he says he's a photographer. And he says, "What do you take pictures of?" And he said, "Important people." And he said, "How much do you make?" And he said, "I make what all the millionaires in all the world can never have." And he said, "What is that?" And he said, "Enough." And this book is full of lines like that that just make you go, damn, like really make you stop and think about the world we live in, your role in that world. And another thing I want to say about this book, if you do not have an understanding of Sri Lanka, if you are not a gay man in Sri Lanka that's a war photographer, trust me, whatever walk of life you that encapsulates you. If you have some empathy, you can really experience Molly's story. And he's not always an easy character to empathize with. Molly is a jackass. He's selfish. He's a pig, but he's not a good man, but there is a good man in there. And for a lot of his faults, you understand where this selfishness came from. His father, split when he was young, so that contributed some to some of his selfish tendencies. But just because you don't like Molly as a character doesn't mean the story isn't enjoyable. I will say that is a con. If you read this and you need a character that is uh instantly redeemable, instantly if you read this and you need a character that is instantly sorry, uh rootable, that isn't you have to sit with Molly for a while before you really start to understand him. At first he's just an asshole. So you do have to give it that. But I think once you do invest in the story and you do invest in Molly as a character, you will be very happy with this novel. As my final rating, I would give it a 6 out of 5 stars.